1, 2, 3. Start Tej.
Hi everyone, I'm from BDITDomain. So we are learning the series of these videos is all about Selenium with Java and TestNG framework. So we are basically automating the web applications by using the concepts from Selenium and Java. So today our class is all about static and non-static. The static and non-static will be applicable for the variables, methods. Usually we will be declaring a variables and methods as a static methods are if we are not giving any static keyword, then obviously that particular method or a variable will be non-static. So let us understand how we are going to understand about static and non-static and few examples about them, how we have to call the static to non-static and non-static to static, all that. So if anyone interested about deeper sessions, then you can just follow this numbers, and you can also email us. Thank you. So first, the difference between static and non-static is we have a few categories here, depends on these things we can able to differentiate static to non-static. First thing is access members and methods, how the access will happen. Then calling process means how we are calling static methods to non-static methods, static variables to non-static, like that. How overriding will work if it is a static method, if two classes are there. There is a class A which you called as a parent class, and there will be a class B. If you are trying to override a static methods from class A to class B, whether it is possible or not. If it is a non-static, how it works. So we are going to see that as well. And memory allocation. For static members, how the memory allocation, and for non-static, how it is. If we know these differences, how these things are happening for static and non-static, so we will obviously know the difference, and we will also know the where to use static and where to use non-static. So first things, access members and methods. If we see the example in the down, we have a class called helper. So in this class, we have a static method. You can see here, public static integer is a return type here, and we are actually adding two variables. So as in a class A, we have a static method, and we are trying to use this in the class GFG. And what we are trying to do here, we must actually create an instance, right? So even when we are seeing in the Selenium concepts, so as I said, we have so many inbuilt methods and classes in Selenium. So whatever the inbuilt classes and methods we have, so if you want to use those methods into our current coding, if those classes are the class methods are not a static methods, you must create a object. So the access here is you no need to create an object, because, and here also like in the CFG class, we do have another static method. It means that you're getting a static method logic inside the again one more static method. In this case, because you're just writing a logic over there, but you are assigning the values here. If you see, there is a and B, and we are also creating a N and M, and calling the static method of above class and sorting some in integer variables. So if you see here, we are just directly calling the method by using a class name. Sum is a method name. Here sum is a method name. Helper is a class. Usually what we are doing, we are creating like helper object equal to new helper. Then by using that object reference, we are calling the method sum. But here what I'm saying, when we are calling from static to static, you no need to create any object. Rather, you just use class name dot sum, right? And we can able to assign the values what we want. And two, basically it is expecting a two variables. So we are giving two variables here. That is of our wish. And we are just, providing the values also. Like it is returning the whatever values we are providing, it is returning sum of them. So obviously we are getting the sum of the variables we are presented here. So accessing the static method logics inside the another static method. This is how we do. Coming to the another example, we have another example here. If we see, even not only now, okay. So here it is a non-static method and this is a static method. Previously we saw static to static. Now helper, in a class called helper, we have a non-static method. And when we are trying to access the non-static method inside the static method of CFG class, we must create an object for helper class. That's what we have did here. But before, it is not like this. We are directly calling class name dot. Okay. So we are directly calling class name dot. So here it is not that like that. For example, we are creating an object for a Chrome driver class to access the methods like a driver dot get. We are using maximize windows, all these things. Driver dot find element by click, send keys. All these are the methods which are coming from the coming from Chrome driver class and the parent class of the Chrome driver. So likewise, because those methods are non-static, so you must create an object. So here on top, I can say from non-static to static, you must create an object. So same logic only, we are trying to give the variables like n equal to 3 and m equal to 6, and we are trying to add them by providing the logic which is coming from this non-static method. And coming to the calling process, as I said, this is like whatever we have discussed till now. Calling process is nothing but when you are calling a static members into a static member, you no need to create any object. But when you are calling non-static to static, you must create an object. That is what here it is happening. It's a non-static method. And when you're accessing into another class, you must create an object. Why? Because the memory of a non-static method is not fixed in the RAM. So the logic here is why we are not able to create no need to create a object for static methods means the memory of static method is fixed in the RAM. For this reason, we no need to create an object for the static methods. So you can directly call by using a class name dot. It's just opposite to the static. Non-static methods are not fixed in the RAM. So we need a class object to call a non-static method. So to call the method, we need to write a name of the method followed by the class object name. So we all knows how to create a object for a class name, object reference equal to new class name. So that class name is whatever the class or methods or members you are calling. So that class name you should mention. Binding process. So another point, important point to understand here is how the binding process will work for a static and non-static. So in the static method, the method use a compile time or a early binding. So that is the reason we are accessing the methods without creating an instance of it. But in the non-static method, it uses a runtime dynamic binding so that we cannot access a non-static method without creating an instance. Now coming to overriding. So if we have can we see an example here? We have a parent class with a static method. And in the child class, we are trying to override. Basically, if you want to override, you must extend the parent class into the child class. If we see here in the child class, we have a show is a method, like we have a show is a method here. So override show of present. But what is happening here when we are trying to do that? Of course, we are calling the logic here, like, show how actually overriding is work, overriding will work means when parent class methods, you don't want to change the method name, but you can change the logic inside of it, which will be possible by inheritance concept, by extending one class to another class. So basically, we are inheriting the methods of parent class into the child class instead of recreating that particular method. Because end of the day, you want to show only, like a show is the ultimate option you want to do, like ultimate action you want to do. But inside show, you want to do different logics. So then we go for a inheritance concept. Inheritance says that when you want to get the parent class methods into the child class, you can able to extend one class to another class. But here the problem is, as you have a static method inside parent, you cannot able to override. Because why? Because the memory for the static methods are already fixed. So once it is fixed, static means non-changeable. Once it is fixed, you cannot override. So the override concept itself is saying you can write your own logic in child class. Parent have same method, show is a method here. Parent have certain logic, which is, it is printing parent. And when it comes to child, you are changing that to child. Means you are trying to override which is existing already. But what static is saying, once the static void show sys out as a parent, it will be like that only. You cannot able to change that because it is a static. The memory allocation, the binding is already happened. Okay, the compile time, the binding is already happened, whereas you cannot able to change it. So overriding is not possible when you have a static methods, especially when you're calling a static into non-static. So that's why you are getting a in child cannot override show in the parent. So it is giving a error. At the same time, it's just opposite to it. So the non-static method, we can override a non-static method because for override, we need runtime polymorphism because the binding will happen during the runtime. So that is the reason this is, if you see, this is a non-static and we are just, able to override it and we are getting the example, like, the result of it. Because it's non-static to non-static, and obviously early binding will not be there. During the runtime only the binding will happen, so you can change what values you want to. So there is no restriction here. And coming to memory allocation, so for static method, it's a fixed memory, but for non-static method, it's not a fixed memory because during runtime, you can change your values. You can, because it depends on how much data you're saving, what you're actually doing inside the method will allocate certain memory. So obviously, non-static is definitely dynamic in nature when it comes to memory allocation, but static is very standardized, like, consistent, like standardized memory allocation will happen for static methods or static variables. So if you have any doubts on static or non-static, you can just drop a message in the chat box. We will be helping you with the answers. And here is the slide. You can see about the static or non-static in Java. So few subtopics have been given here. So how to declare, like we have seen it already. What is the calling process? What is the binding process? How the memory allocation will happen. So these are plays a very major role when it comes to static and non-static. Thank you.